So I just turned 39 this year, 1 year away from 40. And it doesn't feel like I'm almost 40. I don't feel like I'm that old. 30 to 39 has been a really transformative time in my life. And I think a lot of guys also feel the same way. Like, nothing really happens in your 20s. We're still young, we're still maturing and stuff. Once we get into our 30s, that's when really, your life trajectory kind of goes like one of two ways. Either you start doing really well for yourself, or you do more of the same that you did in your 20s, or in other cases, do worse. So the first thing I would do, which I think has been really pivotal to my growth as a man, as a father, and as a husband, is seeking therapy and counseling. I know some people, they shudder at the sound of, sitting in front of a so-called shrink and spilling their life story and stuff. And that's part of it. That's part of what you do in a counseling or therapy session. But more than that, a lot of young men that I've met, including myself, particularly men of color, but I don't want to sit here and pigeonhole just men of color, just men in general. And we carry a lot of shit with us, especially if you're American. There's a lot of social pressure to so-called be a man, don't show emotion, although that's changed over the past 10 years or so since I was 30. But, when I was growing up, it was like, don't show emotions, don't cry, don't be a bitch, basically. And because I was in the military, it was like doubly so, where it's like hyper masculine in the military. I had a very abusive stepmother, physically abused, emotionally abused, sometimes even sexually abused. And that, with the divorce of my parents and how that impacted me as a 5-6-year-old, wondering why my mom was gone. Where'd my mom go? Why'd she leave? I put a lot of shit on my dad. I carry a lot of anger because of stepmom and dad and divorce and my mom passing away and trying to transition to life in the military. And I had problems with anger. It affected my relationships with friends. It affected my relationship with girlfriends. I know I don't hit people. It wasn't like domestic violence, but I made a lot of rash decisions, man, and said a lot of things in anger that I shouldn't have said, that I can't take back, and I ruined a lot of relationships and burned a lot of bridges in my 20s and even my early 30s because of the deep-seated trauma that I carried with me. And so seeking counseling last year, at 38 years old, was hands down one of the most liberating and life-changing decisions that I made for myself. And I'm really ashamed to say that it took me that long to do it, I think a lot of us we just don't take it seriously, this mental health thing and stuff. But, you don't even have to have a fucked up childhood, You don't have to have a fucked up childhood or, whatever trauma. Like, you're just seeking counseling to just iron out any long-standing problems that you have in your psyche. Iron those out, man. And counseling, especially if you have a really good counselor or a therapist, it'll let you just pull those in front of you and really handle them and take care of them and address them so they don't continue to run your life. I'll admit that they ran my life, the direction of everything in my life, until I faced it head on and say, I'm tired of making excuses for myself. It's time to, take the bull by the fucking horns and, in this case, be a fucking man and make the decision to be a better man. That's why I'm starting the video with it. It has literally improved every quality of my life, every single quality. And if you want me to talk more about this in another video, I will. But rather than buying the new fucking Jordans or whatever, or some Yeezys, investing in counseling is a far more better use of your money, in my opinion. Which leads me to the next thing I would tell myself in my 30s. Spend less money on things, material things, or even digital things like video games and shit, and spend more time on experiences. You talk to older people to tell you this, the things that really stick with them are the experiences that they had, whether it was traveling, whether it was, even in your hometown, trying something new, something you've never done before, planting a tree, going to pick apples off the tree in a fucking orchard. There's experiences all around us. Even where you are in your small town, or if you're in a big city, there's plenty to do. You can travel around the world and do all kinds of things, man. But especially in US culture, we're hyper-consumers. And that hyper-consumerism drives a lot of our decision making. And particularly for guys, I felt the same pressure. We are pressured socially to buy the latest things or the nicest clothes or these brands to put on a front that we are making it, and to make ourselves look more important, or look like you're worth something, whether you do it for a woman or whether you do it for your peers and how they view you, or it's just because it makes you feel good. Now, I'm not telling you don't buy nice things for yourself, you know what I'm saying? But if you're living a paycheck to paycheck and you're sitting here buying the new Yeezys, I mean, your priorities aren't straight. And my priorities were not straight in my fucking 20s, dude. My credit score was like 530. I know some people have lower, and I know a lot of people have higher. My shit was fucked, man, because I didn't approach the way I used my money the right way. And I suffered for it all through my 30s. All of those poor decisions I made about buying shit, particularly on credit. I'm happy to say now, my credit score is like 780, almost 780. And, I have zero debt. I got a couple $1,000s of student loans that I need to take care of, but I'm essentially debt free, and it took a while. And it took the right women in my life too to make me, put my fucking head down and take care of business. But yeah, man, I wouldn't have bought nearly as many clothes or shoes. I was huge into like tuning. That was when the Fast and Furious was like in this like second and third installment. And so I was throwing money in like this shitty ass fucking car and buying turbochargers that blew an engine, replaced the engine, blew that engine too. Just fucking around, man, doing dumb shit with my money. And I see so many young guys doing the same thing in their 20s. And I get it, man. I'm not judging you, man. And as a matter of fact, you do what you want to do. I'm not telling you to do anything because I'm not your boss, I'm not your daddy, I'm not your mama. I'm just telling you from my experience, your later life self, your 30s and now 40, is going to suffer the consequences of the decisions that you make in your 20s when it comes to your money and your finances. Which brings me to the next thing about health. In my 30s, I was big into like deadlifting, and it wasn't to compete. It was an ego trip, man. You go to the gym, this dude's lifting, I'm gonna throw another plate on. He's lifting, I'm gonna throw another fucking plate on. The issue was I focused so much on just lifting that I didn't take care of the things that I should have been doing, like flexibility and stretching and taking care of my sore muscles the way I should have been doing. I was young, and you're like, yeah, I can wake up the next day and not feel sore, whatever, I'm good. The problem is, now that I'm almost 40, 2 years ago, I woke up and I made a video about this. I still have a herniated disc in my back, and it basically debilitated me. I couldn't fucking do shit. I was bedridden for months. I could not drive. I could not walk properly. I couldn't do anything, man. And I didn't know when it was gonna get better. That's the thing. Even the doctors were like, we can cut it, do some kind of surgery and this and that and the other, but we don't, you run the risk of causing some nerve damage and having some permanent damage. So, you just gotta rest and hopefully it gets better. Thankfully, I'm like 70, 80%. It really improved a lot, but I still have lingering effects of this. I can attribute the damage to my back to the poor decisions I made about taking care of my body when I was in my 20s and 30s. Particularly in my 30s, I was really pushing deadlifting heavy. And I probably wasn't paying attention or listening to my body. I wasn't stretching before lifting. I wasn't stretching after lifting. I wasn't, because you're like, oh, stretching, yoga, that's for girls, man. That's too fucking feminine. I'm doing that shit. Trust me, man. Like, I really wish I would have done that because, yeah, man, you only get one body, you only get one body. You got to take care of that shit because once it's broken, it's fucking broken. And you got to take time off to recover. And that time you spend recovering, all those gains you made, you're going to lose a lot of those while you recover. And when you finish recovering, you're older. You know what I'm saying? So getting those gains is even harder. Something else I would tell myself, and this is something that you hear a lot, is very cliche, but it doesn't really hit you until you get older. You ever notice how like old people just don't give a fuck what you think? They will walk outside in their fucking underwear to get the newspaper, and they don't give a fuck what you think. I used to make fun of these old folks when they do shit like that. But as I get older, the more I realize, like, when I was younger, in my 30s, I cared so much about what people thought about me. So much so that most decisions that I made were made with what will others think. If I do this, how will people respond? If I do this, how will people react? If I post this video, what will people think? And it was self-limiting because I wasn't living for myself. I was living for what other people would think of me or what I thought I should be for other people. But the reality is, man, as you get older, you begin to care less and less about this shit. You begin to realize that nobody cares what you do, man. Because the thing is, everybody's worried about what they're doing in their own life. They don't give fucking two shits about you. Maybe in the moment they might talk about you or might care what you do with your new outfit or your new haircut or notice your bald spot. But they got to go home and deal with their own demons too, man. And you wasted a lot of time, just like I did, wasting a lot of time worrying about living your life for other people. If you are a type of person who goes against social norms, whatever that means to you, and you don't follow the flow of the river of society and you kind of go against the grain, you're going to get talked about, you're going to get looked at. And I'm not saying to be a fucking delinquent or some kind of weirdo, but carve your own path, man. You know, stop worrying about what other people do. What makes you happy within the confines of what's acceptable in society as a whole. Don't break any fucking laws, you know, don't do weird shit. But at the same time, find yourself. Because if you keep living by others' limiting, you know, 4 box walls thing of what people think you should be, or what you think people think you should be, you're never going to truly discover who you are. You're never going to truly discover what you like and what you don't like. And you're never really going to develop the courage or the audacity to say, you know what, yeah, you guys do it that way, but fuck you, I'm gonna do it my way. And if you don't like it, fuck you too. You know what I'm saying? I live here in South Korea, I do my own shit. Now, granted, I have a wife and I have a daughter, so I do have to keep that in mind. But if you're a single dude, man, fuck everybody else. Do you, boo-boo. Like, whatever the fuck you wanna do it. Just make sure that it's making you a better person, and if possible, making the world, you know, a better place, you know, save the fucking earth, you know? Which brings me neatly into the next thing, which is, if I was in my 30s, I would start fighting my hair loss sooner. I waited a long time. I started losing my hair, I think, when I was like maybe my early 20s, 21, 22. Just didn't really notice it. My hair was so thick and curly that I didn't notice it. But once I get to like 24 is when I really started to notice that I was thinning up top and here on the hairline. And I made videos about this. You can check out my channel. My channel is mostly hair loss stuff. So you can find out my hair loss journey and what I looked like before I lost my hair and what I looked like when I was completely bald and what I look like now, you know, post hair transplant and finasteride and stuff. So the thing is, like, I worried so much about things that don't even matter now. I was 23 years old, still had a head full of hair, but the side effects scared me away from finasteride. The potential side effects. I never taken the fucking drug, but you know, it's like, oh, your dick could stop working. You know, and he was very, you know, blunt about it. Like, and some people, like, their fucking dick just stops working. They can't get it up, you know, or they can't get an erection. And you tell that to a 20-something-year-old dude, you know, it's scary. You're like, oh, fuck that. No, I like my sex life. You know, I know. And I didn't really understand how quickly I'd lose my hair until I was 26. Like, oh my God. By the time I was fucking 28, 29, I was completely bald. Now, I did have a hair transplant when I was 31. I believe it was 31. Was it 30 or 31? But the thing is like, I didn't do finasteride after my hair transplant. You know, I didn't take any finasteride. I didn't use minoxidil. I just did the hair transplant. Because I was so worried about, you know, side effects that could happen that I didn't do the things that were necessary to really get the best result in fighting my hair loss. Which is why I made this channel to educate guys on the things you have to do to keep your hair. All right, if you have a head full of hair right now and you're a young dude who's losing your hair, you really got to weigh the pros and cons. Yeah, you know, some people get side effects, but it's less than like 1 or 2% of the population that uses finasteride that suffers even the common side effects. The more severe ones is less than that. So statistically speaking, the chances of you even having a basic side effect are almost zero. But I get it, it's scary, you know? But you know what's worse is losing your fucking hair in the shower and seeing hand globs of fucking hair in your sink and really traumatizing you. That's trauma, you know? And like, oh my fucking God, you got your friends ribbing you and talking shit about you. You know, you're wearing a hat all the fucking time and people pop your hat off and make fun of your bald head. I went through it all, man. Especially in the military, you know, it's rough, you know, to deal with that. Because there's always the dudes with full heads of hair that make fun of your balding head. You got to do the things that you can within your power. You know, there are ways to fight your hair loss these days, and if you're not taking advantage of those things you can do, then you deserve what comes to you. And that's what happened to me. I just basically lost all my fucking hair when I just sat on my ass for like 5 years and wasn't proactive enough to do anything about it. So now I'm playing catch up. And granted, I have pretty good results. I'm satisfied with where I'm at right now. I hope it gets better. But I'm trying to tell you guys that still have hair on your head, Guys, really seriously, do your homework, research like how possible or how probable is it, statistically speaking, that you will have a side effect from finasteride or minoxidil, and then make an educated decision based on that. That your 30-year-old self, 30-something-year-old self will thank you for. Okay? Oh yeah, because man, it's rough. Hair loss is rough. Travel more. Travel the world more and see more of the world. As an American, I think a lot of us take for granted how many different places there are in the world because the United States is so fucking big. You can literally drive from California to New York 3 days straight fucking driving, and you're still driving. It's fucking a big ass country. Americans, we tend to not travel outside of the United States because one, we got two giant ass oceans separating us from the rest of the world. It's expensive and it takes time. But also we just think America is diverse enough that we don't have to travel. The issue with that is, if you're from LA and you go to New York, or you're from fucking Seattle and you go to New Orleans, it's not that different. Yeah, the food might be different cuisine, different local, hot spots, but everybody's still speaking English as a general populace. Everybody's still doing the same shit culturally. It's not a different country. You know what I'm saying? So are you really traveling? Are you really seeing anything different? Or is it more of the same with lipstick on it, painted a different color? I think every man in his, well, if you can, in your 20s financially, but in your 30s, you should, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, you should be in a financial position where you can set aside money each month for a trip. I think you should travel. I think you should just buy you a fucking globe or a map and put it on your wall, and every year or twice a year, pick a country to travel to. And it could be a common country, it could be France, like a European country, Germany, like people know about, or it could be something that is very obscure. Fucking Vanuatu, for example. One of my best friends from here in Korea, she's from Vanuatu, and I didn't even know what the fuck Vanuatu was. You know what I'm saying? It's like off the eastern coast of Australia, a little island. But I would have never known that if she hadn't told me. And so I was just being super interested in Vanuatu. I never went, I never got a chance to go, but the world, there's so many places to see. And just speaking from personal experience, my best friends here in South Korea, none of them were American. I have 0 American friends here in South Korea. And when I say friends, I mean like close friends. And all of them are from other countries. And that's what really piqued my interest. Like, wow, they see the world completely differently than I do, because culturally they have different experiences. If you're only focusing on what it's like to be an American and looking at the world with Americans' eyes, you're doing yourself a disservice, because you never allow yourself to fully grow and become a global citizen. I think what makes Europeans very interesting to me is the fact that all of their countries are very near each other, but they're diverse enough to where you go from one country to the next and it's quite different, So they grew up with this shit. They grew up with different languages. They grew up speaking 3 to 4 languages. One of my best friends here, she's French, French and Guatemalan, but she speaks, I think, 5 languages or 6 languages, dude. Like, most Americans can barely speak English. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak 2 languages, but, I wish I could speak more. And I wish I would have traveled more and saw more of the world. And instead of buying fucking turbochargers and the latest shoes and video games. Because I want those experiences, and I want you to have those experiences. Don't wait until you get older. Do it now. Like, go out and see the world. Pick a spot and just go. Bring your homeboy if you want to go, or go by yourself. Challenge yourself. Take a week or whatever and just see what you find. And more than likely, you're going to meet people. You're going to see things, good and bad. You're going to experience things, good and bad, and it's going to change you, who you are as a person, for the better. I've never met anybody who traveled the world and didn't change as a human for the better. Okay? So please, guys, do what you got to do to really enrich your lives by traveling. The last thing I want to recommend to you guys is to keep a journal of your goals. And I know this is kind of like way off from what we've been talking about so far, but all of these things can be in that journal. It's not a journal like, dear diary, today I saw this cute girl. No. I mean, if that's what you want to do you, boo-boo. But what I mean is, like, create like a diary of your goals. What do you want to accomplish by the time you're 30, by the time you're 35 or 40? Write it down and constantly revisit it and understand, am I doing the things that are necessary to achieve this goal? Am I doing the things that are necessary to reach this dream? And because if you're not, you'll know right away. Are the decisions you're making with your money, with your time, with the people you hang out with? Are they leading you towards that goal or not? And it becomes very clear on what you need to do to change that. You know, if you want, like for example, I'm a voice actor. Coaching is fundamental, you know, to being a great voice actor. And I have goals that I want to achieve. I have agencies that I want to be part of, and I have managers that want to represent me. Am I doing the things that are necessary for those people to want me? You know, it takes coaching. You can pay for coaching for anything. You know what I'm saying? If you don't want to pay for coaching, you don't have the money, fucking go to YouTube, man. YouTube, you can learn anything on YouTube. All right, but it all comes down to starting with that dream list. Mine is not very long, it's like a page, but I constantly revisit it, and it tells me what I need to do to make sure I'm staying on that straight and narrow. And I wish I'd have done that earlier because I was just shooting from the hip in my fucking 30s. And it set me back quite a while. So anyways, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. My name is DJ from Keratin Brotherhood. I'll see you in the next video.